after years, like, I don't know, I did some things independently for a while, but nothing was really panning out. So I went through a very, very, very rough time because I went through a phase where I was making a lot of money. I got married during that time too to another person in the business. It just like money was never an issue. Access to things was never an issue. Then that became an issue because I didn't have the expense account anymore. I didn't have the big salary anymore. So my life changed, and it changed drastically. And I became, I guess, depressed. I was very depressed because my lifestyle was completely different. And not just different. It was drastic. I went from high to like 1,000 to 0. So I felt down and out, but I said to myself, I'm not going to look down and out, So I just, I started going to the gym.
Welcome to the Pretty Girl Sweat Show, which highlights women who are balancing demanding careers with a healthy lifestyle and hurdling over personal and professional obstacles. Each week, I have a sister-to-sister chat with an inspiring go-getter, and listeners learn how good things come to those who sweat. Hey, Sweat Sisters. You're listening to episode 8 of the Pretty Girl Sweat Show, and today our guest is Angelique Miles. The New York native is a stunning, ageless beauty who knows how to survive and thrive. After being downsized out of her decades-long career as a record label vice president who signed Timbaland, Missy Elliott, Lil' Kim, and Busta Rhymes, she rediscovered her purpose and reinvented her body as a fitness enthusiast, blogger, and advocate for looking and living fabulously at any age. By the end of this episode, you'll learn how her biggest losses made her stronger and more beautiful than ever before. If this is your first time listening, what up? You could be anywhere in the world and you're here with me, and I really appreciate that. If you love what you hear, take a second to subscribe to the podcast so you get updates every time we drop a new episode. If you got half a second, leave a rating, which will help other Sweat Sisters in need of some inspiration find our podcast. If you have a minute, please follow us across all social media platforms. We are at Pretty Girl Sweat on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and YouTube. Use the hashtag PrettyGirlSweat when sharing this episode. And if you have 5 minutes, please leave a review and let us know how we're doing. Angelique, finally.
I know, right?
I have you on the show. I'm so excited to have you here for so many reasons. But more so, I feel that so many more people need to know your story and your journey. So it's really an honor to be able to share it on this platform.
Okay.
All right. So I always feel the best way to begin talking about someone's journey is to take everyone back to your childhood. Are there any memories that you have of your childhood that stick out the most?
Regarding health or just in general?
Just in general. Just like something from your childhood that really defines you and who you are today.
From my childhood, let's think. Well, I grew up here in New York, in an area of Queens called Laurelton, Queens. It's in Southeast Queens. So I have memories of playing outside, handball, stickball, punchball, not even stickball, punchball, because we didn't have a stick. So we played punchball, and we had natural bases, like home base was a manhole, first base was a telephone pole, second base was another manhole, and third base was like a sewer. So I have good childhood memories of just playing outside with friends without a care in the world. And maybe I'm thinking that because right now I'm at my parents' house where I grew up. So I'm looking outside and it's a beautiful day and I'm having that memory.
Well, tell us about your parents. What should we know about them?
My parents, they met here in New York, but neither one of them are from New York. My mother is from Houston, Texas, by way of Louisiana. My father is from DC, Washington, DC, by way of North Carolina. My mother came here to live in Brooklyn with her grandmother when she was younger, and went to St. Peter Claver, and where my parents were married, and I was baptized. My father came here when he was in the service in the 50s, and he lived in Harlem, where I live now. And they met through a mutual friend here in New York City. My mother she's retired now, but she was an English teacher. And my dad was head of security at the American Museum of Natural History for 30 years. He started there in 1966, and the year I was born, and retired in 1996. So I grew up at the American Museum of Natural History.
So that's why you're so smart. Okay. This explains a lot. See what we learn when we dig a little deeper? Okay. So siblings.
I have two brothers, an older brother who's like 8 years older than me. So we never hung out. We never, he's like, he was in a different world than I am. And then I have a younger brother who, was also in the entertainment industry, as we'll get into, like I was. But he's about 4 years younger than me, so we were pretty. When he was in high school, I was in college.
Okay.
So so we never necessarily had the same friends and stuff like that. But I'm the only girl.
So were you kind of like his second mom, though?
No.
You're like, no, I wasn't doing anything for that dude.
Nothing like that. We fought like cats and dogs.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, so you mentioned, memories of playing sports growing up. I'm sure your little brother may have participated in that or not. Or you may have done that with your friends, but what did fitness look like and a healthy lifestyle look for you all in your household?
I can't say my parents were ever really into it, but my parents are, they're not, neither one of my parents drink nor smoke. Back when in the 70s, I think in a lot of Black families, we were eating probably very unhealthy things. Like, I don't know if people remember like Scrapple and, you remember Scrapple?
Oh,
Scrapple,
yes.
And Sam and fried pork chops and things like that. And, my mother would make greens with neck bones. But I do remember as times changed, she would use, smoked turkey instead of neck bones, or, we stopped eating fried pork chops and, things like that. So I can say that as the more they knew, they transferred it onto us. But we're all naturally, like neither one of them are big or anything like that. Like my parents were small up until they got older, and no real health issues even now in their 80s. Wow. And I think that's attributed to the fact that they didn't smoke or drink.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen them smoke or drink. My mother may have a beer once or a glass of wine once in a blue moon, but none of those vices were ever seen here. For me, my parents made sure I was active. Like I went to dance school. My little brother I still call him my little brother. He's 47 years old. I still call him my little brother, but he was, like a baseball star. Like he was in Little League, and he played baseball all throughout high school. So we both had our thing. Like they made sure that we were active in that way. We had to choose something. And mine, we played sports in the neighborhood because, that's what you did. But I went to dance school for a long time.
So did you continue doing dance all the way through high school?
Up until I was about 16, and then I got fast and grown and didn't feel like spending my all weekend at dance school.
Okay. And so that speaks volumes too, because one of the things that is interesting is that girls do get to a point in their life where they kind of make that transition where they're doing something regularly, whether it's an after school activity or they're playing a sport. And then, they kind of shift to doing something else or lack thereof. So what do you think were some of the reasons why you decided to either not play a sport or to discontinue dance?
I was never into sports like that. like I said, we played punch ball here just as something to do. I can't say that I was that into it. But my best friend at the time was a track star. Like her family was really into track. So I tried track and I was like, I don't like it. Yeah. And, so I was like, dance school I liked. Dance I liked. But I can't say that I ever wanted to do it as a profession. And my father got really, really upset with me one time because before they performed at City Center, Alvin Ailey Dance Theater used to have their yearly, those performances at the American Museum of Natural History. Mm-hmm. So my father knew Alvin Ailey when he was still alive. And of course my parents thought I was like the best dancer ever. Mm-hmm. I never felt that way about myself. I never, had the flexibility that some people did or the point that some other people did. And so when he introduced me to Alvin Ailey, he was like, would you like to dance with me? I was like, no. Because I didn't think I was, I think I was very good. And I knew it wasn't something I wanted to pursue long term. I always knew that. It was something I enjoyed doing, but I never thought I want to do this as a profession.
Well, at least you can check meeting Alvin Ailey off your bucket list, though.
Absolutely. I wish, Instagram or, smartphones were around then because I would have had a picture. I don't have a picture.
Exactly. I mean, but hey, we believe you though. You're a trustworthy person. I believe you met her.
Yes, I did meet Alvin Ailey. My father knew him not very well, but knew him through working at the museum.
Oh, that's awesome. So then you went to Hampton University. What made you go to that prestigious HBCU?
Well, actually my first, and people, and Bison will love this story. My first choice was actually Howard.
Oh, okay. It gets juicy. All right, let's go.
But my father is from Washington, D.C., and this is like the cocaine 80s. That area of D.C. was like, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And my father, knowing D.C. like he did, he's like, you're not going to Howard. So my god sister from D.C. was like, well, I'm going to Hampton. It's about 3 hours from D.C. I was like, I guess, okay, I'll fly to Hampton. Yeah. So I went to Hampton.
There you go. And what was your major?
I'm glad I did. I was business administration with a concentration in marketing. Okay. First it was finance, and I was like, oh no, I don't like this. And so then I switched it to marketing later. Okay. But I wish I'd majored in something else, actually.
Really?
In retrospect, I should have majored in communications. Mm-hmm. But back then, I only thought about, okay, making money when I got out of school, because I think that's what my parents drilled into me. They like, major in something where you can make money when you get out of school, instead of which I drilled into my son is do something you enjoy so you can get out of school. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, because undergrad doesn't really, unless you're doing something technical, it doesn't really matter what you major in.
Exactly.
So I wish I'd majored in communications, but anyway, business administration, marketing.
Well, you also said you were happy or glad that you went to Hampton. Why is that?
Because I had a great experience there. I mean, the regular ups and downs of going to school, but I met some lifelong friends there. I think being in DC during that time, I probably could have gone in a different direction, mm-hmm. Because there was a lot going on. I grew up pretty strict, in a strict environment, because I went to an all-girl Catholic school.
Okay.
And I think I would have been I don't know, I could have been lost in DC. Even though I'm from New York, I was a sheltered New York girl. I wasn't very streetwise or, I don't think it would have worked, me being in another big city. Mm-hmm.
And when you stepped on that campus as a freshman, what were you envisioning your life would be like once you graduated?
Well, I will say that I first went to pre-college.
Okay.
So I had like a head start at Hampton. So when I got there in August as a freshman, I kind of had a head start and had met a bunch of upperclassmen and stuff like that already. So, but I thought when I leave here, I'm going to be ready for the world. And I'm going to be successful and ready for the world because I'm here. And I was meeting so many different Black people. Like in New York, you live in a neighborhood and those are the Black people you see. Or you don't see what's behind closed doors in New York. Like it could be a graffiti stained door and behind it could be a palace. Mm-hmm. Whereas I met people at Hampton, like I met, people who were middle class, people who were poor, and people who were really like upper middle class and wealthy Black people. I've never met people like wealthy Black people before, mm-hmm. So it was a great experience. I didn't pledge. I did go to an AKA rush.
Good choice. Okay.
But I didn't pledge because it was like, I don't know. I think a lot of New Yorkers don't pledge.
Yeah. It's really not a part of the like culture in the Northeast.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like I needed to belong to anything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, but my roommate, she was disappointed because she pledged Delta. She was like, I'm going to pledge Delta. You're going to pledge AKA and we're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I was like, oh, not so much. But I appreciate the experience. Like I was there when she was going through, her pledging experience. Yeah. It was, the lines were deep then, like 50 each. Or something like that. It was just part of the whole experience and homecoming. And it was a great experience. I love that I went to an HBCU. Okay. So.
Well, you mentioned success. That's what you were hoping for when you graduated. At that age, what did success really, really mean to you or look like to you?
To me, it looked like you had a house, you had a husband, you had 2 cars, and you had children who were smart in school. Probably, I'm sure I had a very idealistic outlook on what success should be. Okay. But when I got out of school, that, had a rude awakening.
Well, we're going to talk about your career in a little bit, but, you had a pretty successful journey. Were there any specific hacks that you learned in college that you still use today?
In college?
Yeah. Like when it comes to just like time management or like, whether it's studying, anything that you picked up in college that you still apply today?
I would say just really focus, mm-hmm. because being at Hampton or historically Black college, it can get you off focus very easily because, there's always something else going on. Mm-hmm. Always something else going on. So you have to really just shut all the noise out and focus. And that can be really difficult. And even now, sometimes living where I live in New York City, like a place like Harlem, there's always something going on. And sometimes I just have to shut out all the noise and focus on what I'm doing. Being in New York City, period, can be distracting. But if I have a goal to meet or a deadline to meet, I have to really just focus and maybe not attend an event I'd like to attend, or mm-hmm. when it's nice outside, I can't get out. One of those 80-degree days when you want to be at the beach, but you have to stay in.
Exactly.
So it's just that I would say that's the only thing that I remember that I've applied, because college was so long ago. That was 30 years ago for me. So I don't remember what I was doing.
See, that's the gag. You look so young. It's like people are going to be like, 30 years ago. Okay.
It's my 30-year anniversary.
Oh, congrats. Yeah. That's so awesome.
1988. Yeah.
Wow. That's dope. Okay. Well, tell us about your first job. What did you do exactly to get your foot in the door?
My first job was actually in finance.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to do something to realize that's not what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And finance was, because I'd majored in finance, and somehow I got to Shearson Lehman Hutton, and they were on the 102nd floor of Two World Trade. and you had to take like 2 elevators up. First of all, it was like an hour and a half commute to Wall Street from Queens. And then it's like that 2 or 3 elevators up to 102nd floor. I was always late because I had to be at like 8:30 a.m. So I had to leave my house at 7. I was miserable. And it wasn't, and I was like, this can't be life.
All right.
I don't like this. It was very rigid. Like, this is 1988 again. So like, I remember I worked in mutual fund sales, and I remember the head of the department was like, women have to wear skirts. And I was like, I don't want to work anywhere where anybody tells me I have to wear a skirt. So it'd be the dead of winter and you're wearing tights and sneakers and skirts, just so, you know, you're adhering to dress code at work. So, I was like, this is not what I want to do. I'm clear about that. I'm only 21. I still live at home. I don't have any children. I'm just going to quit and I'll figure it out later. I'm like, why stay here if I don't have to? So I was like, you know, my mother, when I was in high school, my mother was like, learn how to type. So I used to practice typing all the time. In fact, at the school I went to, we had a typing class. So I knew how to type really fast, like 80 words per minute. So I said, I'm just going to temp to make money until I figure out what it is I want to do.
Yeah.
So, for about 6 months, they sent me to different places. I worked all over the city, which was cool because I really learned the New York City subway system from working temp, because I was sent so many different places. And there was one, and there used to be these big companies these big temp agencies, you would just go, like you didn't have to make a phone call. You would just go and they would test your typing and you'd fill out these applications. They'd be like, okay, we're going to call you, you know, and let you know what work is available. And you'd get these phone calls and you'd work for like a week or two someplace. I don't know if that still exists, but, so one day they sent me to Capitol Records A&R department. And I basically never left. But I'll preface that to say I knew I wanted to be in the music business by that time, because there were people that I went to school with at Hampton who were in the business. And I'll never forget, I was talking to a friend of mine who went to Hampton, and she worked at RCA Records. And actually, this is before I was temping. We were having a conversation about getting together and hanging out, and it was holidays. It was holidays, the Christmas holidays. So I was like, well, you know, I got to get up and go to work tomorrow, even though it's I think I talked to her on Christmas Day. And I was like, you know, what's your work week looking like? She was like, well, no, in the music industry, everybody has off for the holidays. Like, we don't work from Christmas to after New Year's. I was like, what? I need to be in that business. Because all this going back to work the day after Christmas is for the birds.
Exactly.
So I made it my mission. And I was like, I love music. And they don't, you know, they seem to have the relaxed environment I want to be in. So when CTI, which was the name of the temp agency, when they sent me to Capitol Records A&R department, I was like, wow, I felt like I manifested that. And I met a woman there. You know, I was vocal about wanting to stay in the business. And she said, well, you know, there's a job available upstairs at EMI. Capitol and EMI were owned by the same people at the time. And she's like, give me your resume and I'll give it to the A&R guy up there and, you know, see what happens. So I got that job and I worked as an A&R assistant at EMI Records. That was my first job in the record business.
Wow. So would you say that the moment you got fed up with wearing tights and skirts to work was like, and decided to start going to a temp agency, was that like the biggest risk you've ever taken in your career to shift it?
I'd say so, probably. But, you know, it made sense to me at the time. I didn't really view it as a risk because, as I said, I was living at home. I didn't have rent to pay.
Yeah. I
didn't have a child. I didn't have, I didn't have a car payment or anything like that. I felt like I was young enough for the world to be my oyster. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I knew intuitively that I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
I can do something I want to do. And I still live by that today. I can be happy doing the job I do. I don't have to be unhappy working wherever just for a check.
Well, maybe we can explain to everyone exactly what your position was or transitioned into at EMI. Explain kind of what that job entitles, like what the duties are.
I was an A&R assistant at EMI Records, and you assist the A&R director or vice president, and A&R stands for artists and repertoire. They're the people who executive produce albums. They sign the artists. So you're listening. So we would get a bunch of demos. So I'd have to log demos. I would have to field calls, do travel. I did everything that they asked me to do regarding artists and the production of their records.
Who were some of the artists that you worked with?
At that point, there was an artist named Jazz on the label, and that's where I first met Jay-Z, because they had a record called Hawaiian Sophie. Back then, it was like Red Hot Chili Peppers, and EMK had that song Unbelievable. Karen Wheeler was there. So I remember from EMI. I was only at EMI for maybe a year, and then I went to Epic Records, where I was an A&R assistant there, and I worked with the person who signed Groove Theory. Oh. And they also signed the first act I would later sign to a publishing deal. So at Epic, that's where I met many of the people that are still around today, like Vivian Scott Chu and Gwen Niles. I met her at Epic. I met some pretty amazing people at Epic.
Okay.
But so I was an A&R assistant for maybe 3 years before I had my first executive job.
Okay. And then within your executive job, what were your duties?
I was, my first executive job was a manager, East Coast creative at Warner Chappell Music Publishing. A Black woman by the name of Rochelle Fields hired me, and by this time I had a baby.
Okay.
I met my son's father, had a child, and we both had babies the same age. So I think that's where the connection was. I think that's why she wanted to, because there were other contenders with more experience than I had, but she, I think, felt a connection to me because of our children and hired me. And I also had other people speak up for me because, like I said, my boss at the time was a successful A&R person, and I think Hiram Hicks, who managed Keith Sweat and some other really big acts at the time who were on Warner Chappell. He spoke in my favor, and also Cassandra Mills was another person who recommended me to Michelle for that job. So I had a lot of help, but that was 1993. My first job. It was I was a manager, and I made $50,000 a year at the age of 25.
25. That is not too shabby. Yeah. Not too shabby.
And that was the 90s when $50,000 went a much longer way than it does now.
Yeah, absolutely. It did. So out of those mentors that you mentioned who moved the needle for you, what is some advice that they gave you throughout your career that took you maybe even a step further in that position?
I can't say that I got a lot of advice. I think people, I look to what people like Cassandra Mills and Vivian Scott Chu, well, she was just Vivian Scott at the time, and the people who were doing what I wanted to do, I just used their example. But I really can't say I got a lot of advice, honestly. I learned, I kind of learned a lot on my own.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did you learn on your own? Are there any specific ways that you learned things? Was it just through trial and error? Was it through reading?
I did read. There's a book that everyone read in the 90s. I think there's been like 12 different editions since then. I think it was The Business of Music. I forget who the author was, but everybody's like, read the publish, because I didn't know anything about music publishing when I got the job. It was like, read that chapter in the book, and they'll tell you everything you need to know about music publishing.
And you will earn that $50,000, girl. Just read that chapter. I'm like,
read that chapter.
Like, forget all the school that you did for 4 years, and then, the other years before that. This chapter is going to set you straight. I love it.
And, it was a very, I was lucky because Warner Chappell was like, as far as music publishing companies go, it's like one of the 900-pound gorillas, which is what the book called them, actually. Like Warner Chappell, EMI at the time, which is now Sony. It was like, if I had to work for any music publishing company, that was the best music publishing company to work for. And they also gave me an office who was previously occupied by a songwriter named Sammy Khan, who had just passed away. And he was the songwriter that wrote like High Hopes and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Like, he was like this icon, and they gave me his old office.
Wow.
Which I was like, that's a sign.
Yeah. His energy.
Yeah.
Kind of rubbed off on you. That's awesome.
And, like I said, money back then was different in the music industry. So it was like, oh, go find some, go furniture shopping and buy yourself some furniture for your office. And I had a really nice size office, huge desk. And I was just really just excited to be 20 something and having the opportunity. And so it was just really about connecting with attorneys and connecting with the writers. Yeah.
Okay, so what inspired you to start sharing your health journey online?
Okay, well, fast forward to many years later, and I will say, while I was a music publisher, I signed some pretty amazing acts like Timbaland and Missy and Busta Rhymes and ODB, Junior Mafia, Little Kim. So I had a lot of success. I grew from manager to vice president there. And from there, I went to Universal Records. But the business changed, especially after 9/11. So long story short, I had a couple of more jobs after Warner Chappell, but the business changed to the point where my last job, they didn't renew my contract. So I stopped working. And for whatever reason, even with my pedigree, I wasn't, in my experience and all my successes, I wasn't able to get another job. And I still to this day don't really understand why. But now I kind of do. I wasn't supposed to work in music anymore. And honestly, I don't think I had the passion for it that I did when I first started anyway. It became, it became very burdensome for someone to ask me to listen to their music. I'm like, I don't want to listen to another demo. I want to listen to music and not have to critique it. I want people to be my friend because they like me as a person, not because I do what I do for a living. So I think I became disenchanted with it, and my work probably reflected that. So after years, like, I don't know, I did some things independently for a while, but nothing was really panning out. So I went through a very, very, very rough time because I went through a phase where I was making a lot of money. I got married during that time too to another person in the business. And just like money was never an issue. Access to things was never an issue. Then that became an issue because I didn't have the expense account anymore. I didn't have the big salary anymore. So my life changed, and it changed drastically. And I became, I guess, depressed. I was very depressed because my lifestyle was completely different, and not just different. It was drastic. I went from high to like 1,000 to 0. So I felt down and out, but I said to myself, I'm not going to look down and out, you know? So I just, I started going to the gym. And, as I was getting older, because by this time I was about 40, and certain things that I used to do just weren't working anymore. You know, I used to, all throughout my 20s and my 30s, I worked out just for, you know, I want to gain some muscle because I was very skinny. And I was like, I just want to gain some muscle and here and there. But by the time I reached 40, it became, oh my goodness, I'm spreading in places I'm not used to, you know, spreading. I can't eat what I want. Like, what is going on? So I started to step it up. And that's when I heard about CrossFit. So I was like, that looks like something like that'll get me in the shape I want to get in. And when I started, the workouts was so crazy and hard. I was like, I have to tell somebody about this. Like, I ran 2 miles today, and I was never able to run for more than 5 minutes, but I ran 2 miles a day, came back and did 50 kettlebell swings, and ran another 400 meters. Like, they would have us do these crazy things, but I was doing them. You know, I may be the last person to finish a WOD, which is the workout of the day, but everyone would be so encouraging, like, Angelique, you got this, you know. It was like, you know, it was like, you know, your box, which they call CrossFit gyms, it was like your family. Yeah. So the workouts I was doing, I was so proud of myself. I was like, I'm going to post it. So at first it was just on Twitter, because this is, you know, around the beginning, or Instagram wasn't popular yet. So, but as when I found out about Instagram, I started posting, like, you know, not pictures of myself a lot, but more like a picture of the CrossFit box, and this is the workout I did today. So after a while, I was doing it every day, and people were like, oh yeah, you inspired me to get up and work out today. I saw your workout. That's a crazy workout. And it just grew from there.
See?
Which is pretty amazing. I'm still amazed by it, because it just grew and grew and grew, and it kept growing. So it's just being, and I was like, well, and during this time, I was still trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do to make money. I mean, during this time, I went and got my notary license. I got my real estate license. I was still, like, I guess, turning over rocks to see where the prize was. And I was like, I don't think real estate's for me. I don't think this is for me. And I just sat down one day and I said, what do you want to get up and do every day and make a living? I was like, I just want to get up every day and work out and practice other forms of self-care and inspire other people to do the same and make a living from it. So I just stayed focused on that. And I wasn't making any money in the beginning. But I was still, I couldn't really tell. I didn't know how I was going to monetize it, but I knew it could be monetized somehow down the line. So I couldn't really explain it to people when they would ask me, well, what are you doing? Like, you just posted, especially people my age, because things have to be tangible for people my age. It's like, so are you selling a book? Are you personal trainer? Are you like, what is it that you do? And I'm like, I can't explain it. No, I don't have a book yet, maybe, but that's not what this is about. I have no interest in personal training anyone. But I do want to inspire and motivate people to put their health first, and to, as a middle-aged woman, to even be a little vain. That's what I'm doing. I don't know how it's going to work out, but that's what I'm doing. So, you know, and here we are, like, I'd say 5 years later since I started really taking it seriously, and it's become a viable business for me.
Wow. And what are some ways that, oh no, I'm hearing an echo of myself. Why is that? Hello? Okay, it went away. All right. So what are some things that you did during this journey to becoming, you know, a health enthusiast, business entrepreneur? Are there any specific things that you did to turn this into a business rather than just you sharing and inspiring people online?
I can't say that I did, honestly. No, I take that back. I started speaking on panels.
Okay.
And networking with other wellness enthusiasts, because I've expanded more. It's more than fitness now. It's wellness. It's lifestyle. Because fitness is a part of my life, but it's not all my life. I'm not one of those people that's all day in the gym. I can't do that. Like I want to go to the gym and then I want to go have lunch and I want to, be social and hang out with friends. And, so it's become more of a wellness and lifestyle brand than just fitness. But I will say that I just, spent time with like-minded people, and, through social media, people just started to take notice and start reaching out to me.
And what has been your proudest moment so far?
I will say, it's so funny you should ask that, because today, and by the time you post this, it'll be known. I'm launching, I've been named a Woman of Excellence for the month of April by BMW.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So actually, when I get off the phone with you, I'm about to post it. And it's just really surreal for me to be recognized by a brand, a world-renowned brand that I've, admired for forever, that's recognizing me as a woman of excellence.
Wow.
And so I would say this moment today actually is, I'm like, okay, this is what I've been working towards. So as a woman of excellence, I'm like driving an X5 this month. Yeah, it's just like, this is what I kind of envisioned it to be, but I didn't know it would be this,
Yeah.
So, today is a proud moment for me because I'm being recognized for just being me.
That's dope. So dope. Well, congrats again on that. We can't wait to see, I'm sure you'll Instagram in your new X5. We can't wait to see some visuals of that. That's going to be awesome. Okay, so let's fast forward to some of your routines and habits. What are some things you do every morning and every night that you just try to never avoid?
Every morning I wake up and I say thank you. And then I have apps on my phone. And I know some people don't want to get on their phone in the mornings, but my routine's on my phone. So I have 3 apps that I go to every morning. 4. One is the Bible app, and I read the verse of the day. Mm-hmm. Then the second is Jesus Calling. So I read whatever the word is for the day on that. Then I do the Secret to Money app, where they have all these affirmations. So I go through the affirmations in the Secret to Money app. And then I meditate, and I use one of many apps that I have for that. I like Calm and Inscape, and I have Simple Habits. I only do like 5-minute meditations, though. The most I'll do is 10 minutes. I'm not like a 20-minute meditation person. So I'll meditate for about 5 minutes on just to clear my mind. Yeah. So I try to do that every morning. I do that every morning.
Okay. And what about at night?
At night, I don't really have that much of a routine, because I'm usually like, last night I was out. My only routine at night is taking the makeup off my face, taking my lashes off and makeup off my face.
Oh, well, speaking of beauty products, that was a good segue. What are some beauty products that you cannot live without?
Okay, I was just telling someone this last night, because I wear my hair really short and I wear it, I just wash and go. But Nairobi Rapid Lotion is like, if I'm going someplace overnight and I forget it, it's like I have to go back. I have to go back, or we have to find a beauty supply store right now, because I can't. Like, that's my jam. Mm-hmm. That's one thing for my hair. For base, I'm a big fan of oils.
Okay.
So I use these products by a company called Moon, M-U-N Skincare, and all their products have argan oil in them, including the cleanser. The toner has like rose or something in it. And the oil they use I use argan oil on my face, and I use sunscreen on top of that.
Okay. And what do you typically eat before and after a workout?
Typically, my typical breakfast in the mornings is a half avocado and 2 boiled eggs.
Okay.
And then after, I try to do a protein shake and some kind of protein like fish or chicken and a salad.
Okay. Well, if it's a cheat day, what would you eat?
It's on and popping, anything. I had yesterday, it wasn't a cheat day, but I had a hamburger yesterday and it was so good.
Like, where was it from? What was the restaurant?
You know what? I'm ashamed. I'm not even ashamed to say it, but in Harlem, there's this guy that has a Hamburger Cart on 119th Street and Lenox Avenue.
Okay.
And there's a line outside the cart. But the burgers are 100% beef, and they're so good, and they're like $2. And I was starving, and my friend and I were like, we're gonna stop at the hamburger guy. He's a well-known guy in the neighborhood. Like the hamburger is so good. Like it's just, and it's small. It's not like I didn't feel like I was eating like a brontosaurus burger. It was small enough where I'm like, okay, I got my fix. And some people would say I don't eat, but he's clean. It's all good. So I had that. I had that, yes.
I'm like, listen, you supported a local business. You should pat yourself on the back, girl.
No, he's a really nice man, and he has all the condiments out there. He has like, skins and the relish but yeah, there's always a line.
That's good. That's awesome for him.
Sometimes I love fried chicken, of course. Like sometimes I just have it overtakes me. I just have to have a piece of fried chicken today. French fries, of course, champagne. And I love sweets like cakes and cookies and stuff like that. So when I cheat, it's usually dessert, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, other than CrossFit, are there any other group fitness workouts that you enjoy?
My first group fitness love is bar classes.
Okay. I
started bar way before it was a trend in the late 90s with the Lottie Burke method. And the Lottie Burke method is the grandmother of all bar classes. So they had a townhouse on 67th and Madison Avenue, and you go there and pay like $20 for a class, and it changed my body completely. And you not only do you gain muscle, but you lengthen your muscles through all this like intense stretching you do after you do these muscle building exercises. I just love it. I just love the class. It really changes your body through small, intense movements. You're working with weights, but not heavy weights. It's just a great workout, low impact workout. So that's my first love. And now there's all kinds of bar classes, like Exhale is where I go now. There's Physique 57, there's Bar 3, there's Fly Bar. There's so many bar classes now, but it all began with the Lottie Burke method. I do Bikram yoga when I can. Like I do that in spurts. Like I'll go for a couple of months and I'll stop. I'm a big proponent of Class Pass or things like that so I can try out different things. So I just like to try different things. I like Barry's Boot Camp, Orange Theory. I do it all.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you have tried them all. That's cool. That's cool, though. You have to try them all, though. You're like a fitness influencer. You have to try every little thing and test it.
I do it for that, and I do it for me, too, because I like to just switch it up. I am in the same gym at least 3 or 4 times a week, though.
Okay.
But those other 2 days that I work out, I like to do something different.
Well, since you're sweating so much, I mean, typically, how many days a week do you work out?
4 to 5, sometimes 6. Lately, it's been like 3 days. I've been bad because I've been so busy, but I try to get no less than 4. Usually it's 5.
Well, what's your go-to deodorant after a workout or before a workout, actually?
Right now I'm using Dove.
I like Dove too.
Dove, yeah. Dove, the spray one. I don't even know. It doesn't even matter to me.
You're like, as long as I'm not sweating.
Exactly. As long as it's holding me down, I'm okay. I prefer unscented, actually, deodorants.
Okay. And what do the words "pretty girl sweat" mean to you?
It means pretty girl sweat. No, it means that. What does pretty girl sweat mean to me? It means, I guess people can, think that pretty girls are supposed to be prissy and not sweat. It means that to be pretty, you have to sweat, or you should sweat.
Mm-hmm. And what is next for Angelique?
Well, what's next for me is I do want to write a book. I believe I have a testimony. I mean, we've only touched on the surface of my life. And I think my story could inspire someone or motivate someone or give someone hope. So I do want to write a book. I do want to do, I want to do more speaking engagements. I want to really connect with people face to face. I don't know. I have so many things I want to do. Mm-hmm. More brand partnerships, of course. And, the whole social media phenomenon is so new. You don't really know where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. So, it keeps growing and things keep coming to me that I never expected. So I just expect that to continue, really.
And what advice would you give to a seasoned professional who is afraid to make a change in their career or take a leap of faith?
I say, if you love it, God will bless it. And life is too short to be at a job or have a career you're unhappy with. I could have probably, stuck it out in music or something like that. I've been very unhappy. And now, granted, I went through a tough transition, but the reward is so much greater when you enjoy what you're doing. So I say, take the leap just for yourself, for your own sanity, for your own happiness.
And that's Angelique. Follow her on Instagram and Twitter at Angelique Miles. Just one more thing before you take off. Do you want to get a short email from Pretty Girl Sweat every Monday and Friday that serves as a daily dose of all things inspiring and allows you priority access to our upcoming events? Just go to prettygirlsweat.com. That's prettygirls with an S, sweat.com. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. And if you sign up, you'll soon discover that there's no hood like sisterhood. Until next time, always remember that good things come to those who sweat.